leading this group as well as all of ARNOVA, and so we need to talk about leadership structure moving forward, and then talking about agenda items and meetings, ongoing meetings, and next meeting, that sort of thing going forward. Does it sound acceptable to everybody?
It does.
Yep. Okay. So did we already go through the intro piece of things, or?
I think so.
I think so. So at this point, who's still on the call? So it's me, Billy at Portland State, Nuri, Elizabeth, and Jenny.
Yeah, Lee.
And Lee?
Yeah, Lee. Y-A-L-I.
Hi. This is Billy from Portland State. I don't think I quote unquote met you yet.
Yeah, I'm a PhD student at Virginia Commonwealth University. So it's my first time to join ARNOVA conference in Michigan. So yeah.
Great, nice to meet you. Okay, so in terms of the items that came up during the meeting last in the fall at ARNOVA, they look like there were about four big things that really came up. And some of these things are continuous with what we have done with the group before, and by we I mean like Angie and Roseanne and myself, in terms of organizing panels and sessions for the 2018 conference. It looks like some topics were already suggested. Developing a clearinghouse and support, other kinds of support for critical research for the members of the group. A critical pedagogy action inquiry group. So Jenny, you're leading this.
Yep.
And then supporting, not just supporting, but I guess the right term is holding ARNOVA accountable for its DEI work with regard to diversity, equity, and inclusion, which was obviously a big topic of discussion during the group in the fall. So does that sound right to everyone in terms of what came up during the meeting as priorities for the group?
Yes, and potentially bringing in a speaker from a different discipline.
Okay, you mean for the conference for next year?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me add that to the list. Okay, so is there any sort of prioritization of these things that we want to talk through in terms of what should be the priorities for the group during the coming year?
Conference deadline is what, March?
I think typically March or April.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So typically what's involved in that, it's not too much of a heavy lift, but I mean, it's sort of related to the leadership question probably, which is send out solicitations to the group to try and organize panels together and just kind of facilitating that process, you know, like what we've done in the past is send out emails to the group just soliciting like, hey, we want to put panels together, because I always feel like, especially for having a critical agenda, that submitting full panels are more likely to get approved in the review process than individual papers, and so that's what we try to do, and have them kind of and try to facilitate a gathering process for those panel proposals. So it's a fairly easy lift. We just want to make sure that we have, you know, at least a good handful of panels and papers to propose. But in the past, we've also worked with other sections to participate and facilitate plenary sessions, roundtable discussions, those kinds of things too. And I don't know if that's something that was talked about. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. Of facilitating something with another full section. Does anybody remember?
I don't remember that. I know it was something that was discussed, but not in terms of a hard idea that came out. I do hope that this inquiry group will lend itself to a panel, that will be something that we can easily propose and would come out of it naturally.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you want to talk more about that, Jenny?
Sure. So this was an idea that came up last year of people trying to do innovative teaching strategies around diversity, inclusion, social justice, and needing some support and a group of friends to be able to think things through with. And so I mentioned this a couple of times in different sessions at ARNOVA. Had about 30 people initially interested, which was a lot more than I was expecting, to be quite honest. I sent out a doodle poll to those that said they were interested and had, I think 11 people respond. I have to go back and double check. So I'm going to send out an email in the next day or so, but it looks like the kickoff meeting in January will be the 16th of January at 4 p.m. And that will be the first time that we really talk through what is this going to look like, and people could decide if they want to participate or not. My hope is that this would be sort of a year-long commitment where people would come together, create some, design some experiments to try in their classroom, try them out, get some feedback, experiment again, that kind of a thing. And that when we meet in November at ARNOVA, that people can report on this learning journey that we will have gone through together.
Right. Okay. That sounds great. And I know that, I don't know if you want to put this out to the group, but you also were looking for somebody to, are you still looking for somebody to partner with you as sort of like a research partner?
Sure. If there's anybody that's interested, I'm absolutely happy for that. I also was looking into, there's the William T. Grant Foundation has a grant for youth inequality, and it's a bit of a stretch, but I think that we could, not I think, we can apply and say that if we really want to address youth inequality in nonprofit organizations, the organizations themselves have to be better equipped to deal with these sorts of issues. And so I'm working, I started an LOI, Angie's reviewed it, and Jen Wade-Berg is looking at it now to see if she might be interested in sort of being a co-PI for this. But that could actually pay for things like bringing the speaker, doing the action inquiry groups, having the leaders get a stipend, Jen doing some cultural competency training and actually getting paid for it. So fingers crossed on that. It's a bit of a stretch, but one that I think if the reviewers are open-minded could easily be made.
Right. Well, that sounds great. Obviously, that would be really beneficial to have some financial support to make a research case out of it.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else that you need from the group to help facilitate that process?
At this point, no. Once we get the LOI in, when it comes back, then we can decide, okay, how could we divide up some of these pieces? And at that point, there's lots of things that people could take some ownership on if they were interested in. Okay.
Is there anything that needs to happen in terms of, or you want to happen, needs to happen, want to happen in terms of like a connection between, like, I guess around this project, a connection between the critical perspectives common interest group and then the teaching section? Is that something that should happen, needs to happen?
That could easily be, well, what are you thinking about, Billy? How are you seeing that?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if that's because it's, I mean, I guess this is kind of a question of like, what's the right way to ask this question of like, in terms of this particular group, like what are the common interest group activities? And then like, what's the container for helping other people do the stuff that they want to do? Do you know what I mean? It's like, what's a critical perspective common interest group sanctioned thing that we're all totally doing together that's a priority for the group? And then, you know, like how can we also support stuff that the members of this group want to do? And so I'm kind of wondering which space you want to be in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know that I have a preference. I'd love for this to be a group thing. I also know that it's hard to move forward as a big group in specific tasks. So I struggle with that part of it. So yes,
Yeah.
I would love it to be something that is that the group's doing it, and also recognizing that that can be difficult.
Yeah. Well, maybe let me put this out to the group, I guess, those of us who are here. There were, so on this list are, it's like specific items of things to do, like organizing sessions, which is just stuff that we've done before. But I'm wondering if there's a different way to sort of talk about the priorities of the group, which is like, is it a priority for the group to engage in a lot more discussions around teaching critical perspectives in the classroom and building support structures around that? Does that make sense? Like, Jenny, your project is an example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know what? Hang on one second. I just got a call back from an email back from Roseanne. They're apparently, Angie and Roseanne are apparently on a call by themselves. So,
Oh no.
Nuri, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. What you should have them go to the room number. I'm trying to find it right now. It's 754.
Okay, hang on one second. So this is like the meeting ID number?
Yeah, the meeting
Okay.
ID number. They sign on to Zoom and then they hit meeting ID number 754 978 132. Then they'll be here.
Okay.
Did I send a bad link or something?
I don't know. I think maybe Roseanne was assuming that you were using her Zoom account, or Angie was, you were using Angie's account.
Oh, okay.
So maybe just put an assumption. I don't know. Hang on one second. We'll see. All right. Let's see if we can make some magic happen. I want to hope that they can join the call because the second item, action item, is around a clearinghouse and mentorship for supporting critical research, and it says that Angie was talking with some other folks about this yesterday. Okay.
So I'm just emailing them the link right now. I'm just going to email them the link to the room right now.
I don't know. This seems about right for a meeting happening at the end of the year.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Okay, trying to get them here.
There she is.
We were in the wrong Zoom account.
Oh no.
That's what I figured happened.
Yeah.
Sorry
how's
about
the meeting
that.
going?
So what did you all decide in your own meeting? You got it all figured out?
Hi, everyone. Angie should be joining us in a minute.
Okay.
How you doing, Roseanne?
All right, all right. Angie and I just had sort of an interesting 20 minutes wondering where you all were. But we're in the wrong Zoom. We didn't realize.
Well, we had an interesting 20 minutes wondering where you guys were, because it's just like, wait a minute, the two most important people are not here.
Right. Well, there she is. Let's see. There she is. Hey, Angie, everybody's here.
Okay,
Hello.
now we're in the right meeting room.
Yay! Well, I was half-assedly trying to facilitate the meeting without you, so.
Yeah, Roseanne and I were chatting away, waiting for people to join us.
So how far along the agenda did you get, Billy?
Well, Jenny told us a little bit about her action inquiry group around teaching.
Right.
So Jenny talked a little bit about that, which is great, because we sort of talked about that in conjunction with organizing sessions for the 2018 conference.
Right.
So that Jenny, I don't want to speak for you, but that she's hoping that this will turn into a panel proposal
Yes.
for 2018.
Okay.
But she updated us on that. Has potential, you said, Jenny, 11 interested folks, and that. Great.
I need to send out the email, but it looks like the meeting's going to be January 16th at 4 p.m.
Okay.
But I'll send the email out in the next day or so.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we were just trying to decide, based on the items that came up during the meeting in November, this list of things that we have, so organizing sessions, developing mentorship for and supporting critical research, the action inquiry group, diversity planning and support. Jenny also mentioned bringing in outside speakers from other disciplines to ARNOVA and seeing if we can facilitate that process. I think we were just sort of talking through like how we want to prioritize these things, like what's most important to us to accomplish in the next year.
Okay.
Is there something that's more important than others? And I just sort of posed the question of, if we sort of think about it in like big bucket items, rather than just like to-do list, it's like, is facilitating and supporting teaching critical perspectives really important to us as a group right now? Is it supporting research and mentoring, like doctoral students and junior scholars? Is that what's most important to us? Like in terms of our priorities, how would we classify those things?
Okay.
So I just sort of posed the question. I think that's where we sort of left things off.
Okay. So we did, if we look through the agenda, we do have some suggestions for topics already that, Nora, you collected those when you did the minutes, I believe?
I took some notes.
Did you take the notes? I can't remember who took the notes.
Yeah, let me copy and paste them into here.
Gotta go check.
And so I sort of talked through the process of how we've done that in the past, and about helping to facilitate panel proposals, and then talked about colloquies and roundtable discussions as well. So that's about it.
We only have two that I wrote down, which is Muslim philanthropy and refugee crisis and travel ban to Texas.
And I guess in addition to other kinds of topics that people will want to do.
Right. Well, and in the past we've had individual, when we sent out the call, like our own call for developing proposals, we've cobbled individual paper proposals into panels, right? And sort of facilitated that.
So, Billy, are you saying we need somebody to take the lead on sending that email out and then doing that cobbling?
Yes, I think I posed that question, which is because it's sort of juxtaposed with the question of leadership for the coming years, because basically the leadership of the group, mostly Angie and Roseanne especially, have developed those panels and sent those calls out. So yeah, through the CIG list.
So one of the things we need to talk about is I guess given that Angie's going to be leading the entire ARNOVA organization, we need to sort of relieve her of some of her duties in this group. And so I've offered to be a participant, and I guess we're looking to see if others want to help take the lead so that Angie can just move into the background and be a sort of silent supporter while she does the other work she has to do. And keep our momentum going, because we had such a wonderful meeting at ARNOVA. We want to keep this group engaged and get as many people involved as we can, because there's a lot more people now who could take ownership. I mean, Jenny's taken ownership of the piece that you're working on, and others can take ownership of other pieces, so we could really have a vibrant interest group. And Nori, of course, you jumped in and did some really important work for us, so thank you for that.
Well, I would be willing to help with the panel coordination.
Oh, terrific.
Elizabeth, yeah.
Yeah, great, great.
So there's in the notes, I put a link to some notes. If you guys can see that under the chat, if you push the chat button, it'll open up. And in the notes, there's some kind of list of tasks that I thought about, as there might be others.
Yeah, Elizabeth, we could work together, and I could sort of, just share with you what we've done in the past. It'd be really good to get a call out a little bit early so that people have a chance to coordinate their topics, because that really works well when we do that.
Yes, I would be happy to do that, especially if you have like a template, verbiage you use that I could just, be the.
Sure. Yeah, I do. So good. We'll work on that.
And when would you like to get that out by, Roseanne? What date were you thinking of?
Well, we have to figure out when the call comes. So the call usually comes March. Am I remembering that?
I think it comes earlier than that, maybe.
Does it?
February?
That maybe February?
They already had something in the conference bag.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else. I guess there'll be something else that will come out. I'm going to look up and see.
Okay.
So I guess right in January, we should start to just put a call out to people and tell them we're interested in putting together the panels. Tell them that these are, I'll share with you what I've had, but why don't you and I, Elizabeth, maybe in sort of second, third week of January, have a call together.
Perfect.
To just coordinate our work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great, Roseanne.
Okay, great.
The system will open February 1st and close April 2nd.
Okay, so that would be a good plan for us then, Elizabeth, to have that ready to go when the call comes out.
Okay.
Terrific, thank you.
There are some other people who've been really involved in the last year since I've gotten involved that aren't on the call. So I can imagine that there are people that will step up, Angie, for that list of tasks that just couldn't make it this week. Like I'm thinking Jody and a couple of others.
Jody's taking over chairing the Emerging Scholars section.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So she may not have a lot of time.
Well, I'm certainly interested in helping out with things like sending out announcements and emails and any other logistics, just sort of being a liaison between folks. I feel pretty comfortable.
That's super helpful, Nori. Thank you.
And then there were some other things that we talked about I mean, these are all conference related, which is great, but we also talked about the possibility of doing a special issue, special issues. I don't know where that is on the agenda.
Well, at some point during the conference, I heard that Jen had actually talked to Norman Dolch at Nonprofit Education and Leadership, and he had said he'd be interested. So,
yes, and I think I can confirm that. So we need to work with Jen to put a call out to our group, because some of the people in our group are doing that kind of work. So we would want maybe to coordinate that.
Yeah, and we're also doing the ATP when that many of you are going to be involved with. Can I just add one more? There's one more thing that came up during the conference, you know, a kind of push for MVSQ to be more open to critical work and work on race, diversity, and so on. And Chow said at our session, the mini plenary, that he welcomes that. And then there was more discussion about that at the editorial board meeting. There was a little pushback from some people, but I think generally the board and the editors want to do more to encourage space and submissions for critical issues and race and diversity issues. And there was a suggestion also to the editors to maybe even, you know, how they have kind of special editors for certain things like volunteering. Maybe they have one that's, you know, more focused on these topics, or more generally there's a recommendation, maybe call it a civil society editor or something. So I don't know that, so something may come out of that.
Interesting.
And I'll also just briefly talk to you about the discussion that I had with Melissa. You know, she had said during our meeting about trying to do some kind of clearinghouse / mentoring / accountability thing. We kind of brainstormed some issues. For one, she's got a group of people that she's getting together to do some like writing together, or writing working group. But we talked about potentially doing some kind of workshop for maybe scholars on, you know, submitting critical work, like strategies for submitting critical work.
That seems like a good idea.
And then maybe doing some kind of mentoring. Like, I know ARNOVA itself is looking at doing some kind of mentoring program, but we could also think about it in relation to this group, like, you know, doing something more maybe formalized around mentoring.
And we talked about that, I believe, at our meeting.
Yeah, and then the final thing that she suggested we think about, she goes to this feminist sociology conference every year where they have an all-day writing workshop, which essentially is just people getting together and hanging out and writing, sometimes talking. But that sounded like an interesting idea.
We do that at Seton Hall right after the semester ends in the spring. It's really helpful. We do 3 days where you can't do anything but write, and it's really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Portland State. They have sort of designated day and space, and it's like the faculty development unit they support food and a space, and you know, you just sit and write.
And so this would be the people who are studying similar things, which would be helpful, because we often feel isolated on our campuses.
Right.
And maybe finally, I'm trying to slowly but surely work on figuring out what kind of planning, or we could do around diversity, trying to figure out how it would work within what's already been done and the strategic planning process that already took place, and kind of connecting with that and working through the diversity committee or the executive board on that. So anyway, that's kind of in progress, but we'll see, you know, what happens. It's going to be maybe a slow process. So
Angie, can you think of any way we can support that process? Or
pardon me?
Is there any way that we can support that process or find people to support that process? Because I know there's a lot of people, at least on the list, who are interested in how we could support that process.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out that part of it, because I think, I'm not sure what the issues are exactly, but I think there's a sense, on the one hand, there's a sense from the board, definitely, like, we want to do more around diversity and, you know, and addressing issues around race and marginalities and, you know, all those kinds of things. So there's definitely a desire to do that, but also there's a sense that we've done a lot already that people don't fully know that we've done or understand that we've done. And so there's a sense, I think I'm picking up a sense that, you know, on the one hand, we need to recognize what has been done and then build on that. And so, well, how do we do that? As well as there was a strategic planning process that, you know, diversity is an element of that. What I think what I'm trying to kind of pitch is that, one, we need to think about a process that takes things further as far as engaging groups of people that feel like they haven't been very well engaged as part of these processes. And then in connecting that kind of into these things that have already happened or are happening. And maybe the way to do that is through talking about implementing the strategic plan, which hasn't been really sorted out yet. As well as many people have brought up to me that we need to do more around evaluating what we have been doing. And so maybe there's an opportunity in that. But there's a lot of moving parts and people involved in all those things, and getting them all together on the same page may be the first step or process. But because I'm an outsider in a way and new to things, even though I was on the board many years ago, I sort of feel like if I try to come in pushing too hard too quickly, that is going to cause some negative reaction. So people are open to things, but it's really kind of figuring out, I think, what's the right entree that's going to bring people along instead of make them feel like there has been a little bit my sense of reacting like, hey, we have been trying, you know, like, you know, some appreciation for that needs to happen. But yeah, that's kind of my read of it, but I may or may not be completely understanding things yet.
Well, one of the things we talked about at our meeting at ARNOVA was trying to push some of what we're doing into the already existing sections.
Yeah.
And so there's a number of ways to do that. One is partnering with people on panels at conferences. Another way is to maybe ask them if they would be interested in having discussants from a critical perspective coming in and being the discussant on panels, so it could push it into research that's more traditional, right? And get people to sort of think with a different lens. You know, so there's a variety of ways, and what that will start to do is build a group of people outside the sort of 50 of us, however many there were in that room. It seemed like there were a lot, but push it out to, because I think given the times that we're living in, a lot of people are really open to this alternative takes on things. So that might be a way to, I don't know, Elizabeth, what do you think about that? If one of our tasks could be maybe to reach out to the section leaders and see if they're interested in having our folks be discussants on some of their panels.
I love that idea. So it can be a thread that weaves throughout the whole conference. And I also think, yes, we should go through the sections, but also for people who aren't going to be formally working with a section chair, just a general call to let people know, hey, if you're looking for a discussant, please, we have a lot of people that are willing to talk to you. So I think both.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, like part of, I think the strategy needs to be to kind of, I don't want to say infiltrate's not the best word probably, but it's sort of that, and in the systems that already exist. Like, so I was thinking about this with the awards, for example. Like, our group could do a lot more to submit, you know, nominations for different awards that would show symbolically that we care about, you know, certain things. You know, is one strategy, and then thinking about like different parts of ARNOVA where we could do that kind of stuff. You know.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Like I was thinking, there's got to be something that we should nominate. You know, Jen and Judy and Pierre should like they should get like the lifetime, you know, award from ARNOVA. Like,
that's a good idea.
You know, like stuff like that. As well as, so if there's like this kind of grassroots, and maybe we, you know, partner with the community and grassroots associations, I think that they would be a natural partner for a lot of things. As well around some of this kind of work.
And related.
Yeah, go on, Jenny. Sorry.
I was going to say, related to that is trying to get on the awards committees. Because from what I can see, some of the awards committees are fairly stagnant, and so it affects the choices that are made.
Yeah, I think I can speak to that too. I think that especially for some of the younger members of the association, and I would actually include myself in this group, of like, all of those processes are very mysterious to me. Like, how do you get on the awards committees? Like, how do you get on the editorial board? How do you actually infiltrate these systems of power so that while you can push from a more informal end in terms of like, you know, offering yourself up as justice, like how do you actually begin to participate in the formal power structures of the organization?
Well, I know the secret, Billy.
Tell me the secret, Roseanne.
Well, the president actually does that.
Well, now committee. So yeah, the president has something to say in none of that, but also the committees now. Some of that work has been pushed down to there's now an awards committee that then finds people to serve on these. But I have to say also, there is every year a survey that goes out asking people to volunteer.
Yeah.
And so we need to make sure that everybody in our group is answering that.
Nori, why don't you and I work on that? When that call goes out, why don't we work on really just sending it and telling our folks, sign up for these committees. I didn't realize it got pushed down, Angie. It used to be the president who did it.
To know and understand.
Yeah, they've been. Yeah. My understanding is they've been reworking some of the policy manual, and in particular with the awards, trying to make it so it's not so there's a little bit more power in the committees to do some things. But I'm sure I can have some influence on some of that.
Learning already how weak the power of the presidency is.
I know, actually it's going to be interesting to see if I can actually do anything that
oh Lord.
But this is where like the more we can kind of get into some of these processes, but I'm sure if we need, if we need people for some things, we'll come to you guys. As well as other people, but just trying to look for the.
So do we have anybody working on bringing outside speakers for other disciplines to the conference? Did you guys make any progress on that conversation before we joined you?
No, Jenny, you brought that up, and I actually don't remember that coming up. So can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Jen Wade Burge had talked about it several times, and so that was sort of where I got the idea from.
Mm-hmm.
And then Roseanne, I don't know if you know this yet, but there was a grant opportunity through the William T. Grant Foundation that deals with youth inequality. But we can make the argument that if we want to deal with youth inequality through nonprofits, the leaders have to be educated, which means the faculty have to be better educated. And so I put together an LOI that Jen is actually taking a look at right now. It's a stretch, but it would cover something like the cost of a speaker to come to ARNOVA, the cost of the inquiry groups, that kind of a thing.
Nice.
So if the LOI gets approved, then I'll be asking for some help who wants to be a part of this and connect on different pieces. And Angie, you looked at it too, so I appreciate your response on that.
Yeah, sure. It'd be great. We need to keep our eye out for other opportunities, maybe like that. I know that in the ARNOVA board's side of things, there is a desire to try to figure out a way to have some support to bring in outside speakers, but it's going to be a matter of, what resources are available and then how to do it from there. But again, like the sections are going to get if the first opportunity for that would probably be through the sections. And then from there.
Is there anything else we need to cover?
So who's in charge of convening meetings?
Well, I'll do that, Angie. I'll work with Nori. Nori, can I work with you on that since you have the list of everybody?
Absolutely, sounds good.
And then I guess we need a steering committee because we can't have all 50 of us on a conversation.
This group's pretty good.
Yeah. Although there were a few people.
Yeah.
I think Jenny was suggesting we might want to include. So why don't we, over the next couple of weeks, just think about who should be on the leadership team and just share it amongst ourselves and then go forward with that and then have another meeting in January?
The two Jens, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So far no one's taken the poll, and there's actually two in my one is good thing, so I don't know, maybe we need to.
Well, I haven't sent that one out yet. I was
Oh,
gonna wait until
okay,
after this meeting and then.
Okay, good.
No wonder no one is.
We were so confused about what was going on.
I'll send it out a few times in the next week.
Okay.
All right, excellent.
So Nori and I will work on setting up the next meeting. And then Elizabeth and I will work on getting it all ready to go out. Jenny's continuing to work on her piece. Thanks so much, Jenny. That's going to be great.
I hope so.
What else?
Do you want to talk about agenda items for the next meeting or wait on that?
Well, sort of looks like what we've been doing.
Yeah.
And then maybe I was a little remiss and didn't look at the good notes that were taken from the last time, but if we all promise to do that, we could see what we've missed. Although this was pretty comprehensive, Angie, what you put together, I think. Personally, my head will be a little clearer after Monday.
Yeah.
At least I'll find out if the president's presents are wrapped or unwrapped when they get under the tree, because right now they're all unwrapped.
Okay, I'm taking some notes here. I'll try to clean it up a little. Is there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us on this call? It's hard to tell. Some people have called in, but are also on video.
7 now. So it's Lee, the student. Are you still on?
Lee. Okay. Okay. And I'll put these notes in we got a Google folder somewhere.
Oh, that'd be great. So that we with the other ones. Terrific. Yeah, it's great to have everything in one place so that you don't have to hunt in your email.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I have to go. My family's at the chiropractor and they're looking at me, like wondering why I'm sitting in the hallway. Yeah.
Good seeing you all.
Okay. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay. Goodbye.